Well, I'm back talking with Kay. She's agreed to talk more about Stringbabies because I have more questions. It's so interesting. We had some students listening to the previous discussion and they've now gone off to another class and we're going to carry on. They can watch this another time. So I know Kay is a teacher who is truly embodies all the things that Stringbabies is about. You're creative, you compose things, you experiment, you take risks, you make associations, you really work from how the learner, how other people learn. You help people learn, you don't tell people what to do, there isn't only one way, and it's about personal development and growing in music. And so my two questions, one is I'm gonna tell the question now, but save it for last, which is if you can tell us a couple of those fantastic stories of your favorite moments. But I thought we'd save those lollipops for the end.
Okay, that's fine. I can have a think about it.
You can have a think about that, you know, whether it's a student discovery or your own, you know, experience or teacher discovery.
I can tell you about it.
I know. But the meaty question is, that I think is really valuable for other teachers, is what have been the watershed moments where you have explored new areas and found new talents, for not meaning the inherent sort of gold star talent, but just more capabilities within you as you've developed the program?
For myself personally?
You as a teacher?
Yes, well, composition we were discussing is definitely one of them. And composition is very, very much embodied in Stringbabies right from the word go. And around 2010, so I published the first Stringbabies books without piano accompaniments. And Surrey Music Service, Surrey Arts as they're known, said we'd love it if you could write some piano accompaniments for the existing tunes. And
had you done that before?
Never. I nearly died. I was terrified, and I thought, well, no, actually, I've got to give this a go. And so I decided that I would try and make them stylistically different, and I would also try and explore using different harmonies. I didn't want to stick to just playing tonic dominant chords. I wanted to tickle the students' ears, you know, expose them to different sounds, and it's made me work differently in a number of ways, because I don't consider myself to be a pianist. And I don't consider myself to be a composer, and certainly I had tried composing, and I was very sensitive, as everybody else is, to criticism. So, you know, when people would say to me when they saw an effort that I produced, yes, this doesn't quite work, does it? Or this isn't quite right, or it's too long, or you know, I would go like that, and I thought, I won't try again. I won't try again. And it's made me think about how we teach. We need to create an environment where it is safe to try new things, where failure, as it's been coined, is an opportunity to learn.
Yes, it's not a terminal thing.
It's not a terminal thing, but it's okay for things to not work. And so I wrote these piano parts, and I just absolutely loved it, because I began to discover that there's a strong hint of Vaughan Williams in my voice. You know, I love sixths, you know, and all my piano accompaniments are peppered with major and minor sixths, you know, consecutively, and I just love that sound. And it's been sort of a Stringbabies tunes don't actually naturally fit a traditional, shall we say, harmonic pattern, 1-4-5 pattern. So I've had to be quite inventive. And it was a real joy when I sent a tape recording or sent copies to the Surrey Arts team to come back and say how much they liked it.
That's brilliant.
And that was a real first for me. Now, you know, I'm...
Especially as a classically trained musician, very often we're trained that there's a very definite right and wrong.
Oh, yes.
And that actually we don't do certain things. And
Right.
I do think that that sort of ethos has eroded, and people realize, well, actually. But if you look at other areas of life, even now, we're making up what we say. We're experimenting and exploring. It's not being written, and nobody's going to grade us against a script.
And this is slightly an aside, but it does make me think of a very early experience of mine when I studied at Huddersfield before going to Guildhall. And I was doing my ARCM. And part of the ARCM was a Bach harmony paper. And we were taught Bach had these rules. And I'll never forget one of the questions, a mock paper I did, and was that they'd have a 4-part chorale. Sometimes the question would have a line missing, like the tenor part missing, you had to fill in the tenor part. Sometimes you had to describe, you'd get the full chorale and you'd get the complete, a little arrow saying, this is a chord, you know, what is its function, what key are you in, that sort of thing. Anyway, I went to my teacher who had a PhD for doing computer analysis of Bach's fugues. I remember he was a very brainy man. And I hope I'm not going too much off a point, but the point I was coming to is that I presented him with a complete Bach chorale, and he hadn't realised that it was a complete Bach chorale, and he played the first 2 chords and said, Bach would not have done that. And I just let him go for a while, and you know, about 2 chords further on, no, Bach definitely would not have done that. And I said, I'm afraid, Doctor, he did. And it made me realise that Bach was breaking his own rules.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Why? And that's how I operate, and I encourage my students to operate. And so what has been a wonderful journey of discovery is for the kids, you know, as they go on a little bit, is the imagination that is displayed in their compositions. It absolutely blows me away, really. And even the children who have never tried composition before, there is something in all of us that we can all compose. We just have to need a safe environment.
Yes.
To be allowed to experiment, not to judge ourselves too harshly, and for the teacher not to judge too harshly. You have to guide the process.
That's not to say that you don't still learn to a high level of things. So, for example, I know you have quite a well-developed system of pitch and introducing, you know, and you wouldn't, for example, not judge somebody who never quite gets a fifth. You know, you say, actually, that's not the right thing. It's okay to say, that's not the right thing, and here's what it sounds like, and here's how we do it. But there's a difference. That is allowing the failure, the learning, as opposed to, you know, that's not the right thing.
And it creates such a lot of tension, doesn't it? It creates such a lot of tension physically and emotionally. And, you know, that's one thing that I think is a problem when it comes to sight reading. Our kids go, oh no, sight reading, I can't do sight reading. And that's one of the lovely things that has been great about Stringbabies is that, yes, you can do sight reading.
I suppose those early composition games with the magnets mean that they are comfortable with the arrangement and rearrangement of notes.
That's right. And they have ownership. Because a lot of work is not done with a book in front of them. It's done away with, you know, with the magnetic shapes on the board. And it's amazing that even when they've gone beyond, shall we say, they've left the Stringbabies behind, they've gone beyond beginners, they still want to compose.
Yes, and I think that's a principle that can be taken forward through all levels.
I think
even
so.
If people are very comfortable or, you know, believe strongly in particular method books, you can still rearrange the notes and encourage that. And, you know, I mean, it's something that can be integrated into all sorts of teaching to help link things in a musical way.
It is, and it can be part of the lesson. I can think of, you're talking about favourite moments. One favourite moment was one of my little students, she was about 7 at the time, and we were learning a piece by Catherine David Blackwell. I can't remember what it was called. Spy Movie.
It's a good name.
Yeah. And, you know, we had a conversation, they played Spy Movie, but we talked about the James Bond theme. And we said, do you remember how the one bit of the James Bond theme is ba, 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 ba? And we discovered how we could play that on the cello, and we talked about chromatic scales. You see how it all generates and leads on. And the next week she came back with a starter piece, which she'd taken that little figure, and it started, you know, with this little figure. Da, ba, 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 da, dee, da, da. Pardon my singing.
No, but it could be, it's
It
a
was
beautiful...
amazing. It was amazing, and it was such a polished composition that I played it at the last recital I did.
Wow, that's amazing.
So-
What an honour, you know,
Oh.
to the student to be,
Yes,
gosh.
no, and I just love it, and I love just seeing the joy
Yes.
with the youngsters. And of course now with Stringbabies we have a Stringbabies award, which is this free tier,
Yes.
I should say free tier target system. It's not an exam.
So they perform though?
They perform, it's awarded by Victoria College exams, but they do a little assessment, which is purely teacher assessed, 3 pieces, one of which must be very in composition. They compose rhythms, throws, scales, patterns, you know, and it gives them 3 little targets to work towards during that, what can be quite a long beginner process before they hit grade 1.
Yeah.
So it's very much an embodiment, what, you know, and probably what I suspect sets Stringbabies apart from perhaps other methods is this strong emphasis on composition.
It's lovely. It's really lovely, because how many teachers out there give someone an instrument and plonk a book in front, you know? But actually, without having the insight and the inspiration to think about it and really dissect it and take the time to think of it from the child's perspective, which I do think is not something everybody could do.
No, I
you know?
agree.
And so you've really done something special with that, but that is a great, it's a great connection, a great way in. And whether people take the whole method or elements of the method, you know, principles behind it, it's a wonderful gift to the musical community.
Thank you.
So
I do think you can learn though how to, you know, get down to the child's level.
you
I
can
think
learn
you
how to
can
get
learn
inside,
skills.
you know, understand the perspective of each student, and understand how if someone's an adult coming to music after a long years of a day job, they'll have different pressures, stresses, expectations, attentions, you know, expectations for goals than someone who's never been to school.
Yeah, that's right.
Or to someone who's never held a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
You know, so it is important always to think about the perspective of the person learning, because after all, they're the ones making their music.
That's right, indeed. So you're thinking about favourite moments?
Yes, please.
Gosh, I've
We
got
have a
hundreds
couple of
them.
favourite moments.
I could probably give you more than one, but I've alluded to a few, mentioning the student who discovered, you know, she'd been tricked into thinking that a 3-line stave was actually a 5-line stave. And I mentioned students going off and discovering 4th position. I've mentioned obviously about
Yes,
composers
those
as
were
well.
in our earlier talks.
So some of the discoveries, well, I ended up rewriting the Stringbabies book because the first Stringbabies book only dealt with crotchets, quavers, minims, dotted minims, centimeters, and the rest. And I just thought one day with a student, oh, hang it, let's try a triplet. So I wrote, and I said, here we are, we've got on the whiteboard, we've got a note with 3 legs. And it goes like this, and I went, Tilly. I tapped it out, and she, Tilly, she was 5 years old. Okay, let's put a tar before it. Tar, Tilly. What would you like to put at the other end? Oh, let's try tete. Tar, Tilly, tete.
Wow.
And then we turned it upside down and read it, and I thought, she's coping with this. She went home, and the next thing I know, Mum is reporting that this girl is with her bath crayons in her bath time, writing tars and tillies and tetes on the bath, you know. And the number of times I've heard parents saying their child has just gone away and wanted to write, compose their own rhythms.
That's lovely.
And then of course some parents say everything is helping them with their handwriting skills.
Everything, yeah.
You know, because I do, when they've got the magnetic whiteboard in front of them and a pen, however young they are, I'll pass them a pen and say, do you want to write a rhyme? And it may be a little bit squiggly if they're very young. I don't mind, you know.
No, I have to ask, do you get them to dance these rhythms?
Oh, if the room allows,
Yes.
sometimes we dance them, but sometimes we walk around feeling the pulse with our body and saying the rhythm. So we've got two rhythms.
That connection is wonderful.
Yeah. So we do. Yes, we do dance sometimes, especially if it's a dance, you know. And we
And
also,
of course they sing.
yeah, oh, they do sing right from the word go, and that's where my second story comes in, because we sing a hello song.
Oh yes.
Now, I was dragged up with Kudai from the age of about 13. I started cello when I was 12, and around that time I started attending a Saturday morning music centre, and one of my favourite times was a Kudai lesson, right at the end of the day. And we just sang songs, but using Kudai names. And I just loved it, and it was a very important thing for me. And with the whole Stringbabies journey, I've been drawing on experiences, not just when I was at college, but going right back into my childhood. You know, the way things were explained and thinking, you know, they're coming together in a way I never imagined. And when I was a student, 13 or 14, I would take my teacher a whole folder of pieces, my favourite songs written with Kudai,
Wow.
you know, names,
Yes.
you know. And she was quite impressed, I think, but, you know, I then was very fortunate to be taught by Adrian Fawn at the Guildhall. And Adrian had a very similar system to Kudai, 4 years of general musicianship training. What he did, he would get us singing all sorts of exercises. We would label each degree of the scale by a number, or sometimes by a letter 9, and if it was a sharp note, it would have East on it, so F sharp would be Fis, B flat would be Bez, and we really had our ears opened up and well trained, and that's very similar to Kudai. And so I was a firm believer, and right from the word go, I tried to incorporate it in my teaching, and Sheila Nelson, of course, who was a huge influence on me as a teacher, she was very fond of Kudai. And then later I came across David Vinden's work, observed him at a couple of colour strings courses. He's just the most amazing teacher, and I got to know more about modal scales and the sound worlds you have, you know, with the different modes. So as soon as I can, I actually get my students, you know, to play modes as well, so they can really open their ears to whole tone scales, the Dorian mode, whatever, you know.
It's important and it's impressive. It unlocks all sorts of music.
It does. And the interesting thing that it starts, I just start training their ears with this hello song.
Oh yes.
Based on the perfect fifth, yeah? And I'll demonstrate. Hello, everyone, join us in a cello song. It's fiddle if you're a violinist, or happy if you're a violin player. We've got to be careful that we don't get away from the crotchet
Yes.
play the rhythm. So saying a violin wouldn't be, or
No.
viola would
Yes.
complicate things. And that the child takes part in that. They may not sing it, they may not want to sing it, but they listen to it every lesson, and they might want to do that with me, or they might just sit there. Sometimes they sing. But they very quickly assimilate the sound of a fifth. And I've been amazed that within a few weeks they're telling you
Yes.
when the cello's out of tune. So I remember turning up on a number of occasions, but one little boy, he was only 4 years old, and the first thing he wanted to tell me, Charlie is sick. I don't know what's wrong with Charlie, but he's definitely poorly. Of course,
Charlie's a C-string.
Charlie being the C-string
Yes.
was, you know, wobbling around.
Still attached, hopefully.
But I thought, Eureka!
Yes.
I recognised that.
Yes.
And of course, you know, all these things help them to become, is part and parcel of helping them to become independent learners.
Yes.
You know, my job is to make myself dispensable one day, so that they don't need me. And that's been, I think, something that I've noticed that's different, not only the sight reading being better, oral skills have been stronger, and we've seen this evidenced in exams, you know, not just for myself, but also colleagues working with string babies all over the place.
Yep.
And they're reporting, you know, pretty usually 80 to 100% marks on sight reading oral. Not always, but pretty much every time. But the other thing that I'm finding is that they're independent learners. They can make their own decisions. They can find their own solutions.
And that's something today that through school, students are taught to take tests, and there are more and more hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
And retaining that sense of independence and really integrating it into their musical being is something, a foundation that will keep them forever.
It will, and it's also, you know, it's creative, finding solutions. I mean, isn't it Sir Ken Robinson who feels that the, you know, the current education system is killing creativity? Not wanting to get too political here,
but it, you know,
but we have to think about the importance of the arts subjects, and particularly, I think, music.
yes, and remedial action is
Yes.
much more difficult than doing it right from the first time.
That's right. So, you know, the creativity, the independence. I've been quite shocked by some of the students who can play better than me now. Well, I mean, I'm really having to practice hard to keep up with some of my students. And they come with, you know, music already well learned, and they go and find their own fingering solutions, you know. And that's the other thing. You see, when I was being taught through the Guildhall, I always remember a comment on one of my exam sheets was, that fingering doesn't work. It was on my final recital, didn't it? Now this was a fingering handed to me by my professor. And it made me think, who are you to say that?
Yes.
Who are you to say that?
Have you walked in my shoes and
No.
my hands and...
No, absolutely. Who are you to say that? Probably it was evidence to me because maybe I fell off the note, I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe I did, I can't
I
remember.
mean, sometimes there are good grammatical suggestions, but also to think there's only one fingering
Yeah.
is a bit tricky.
It is. And so I've explored, I encourage my students to go away, come and, you know, show me what you can do, what do you think? And I've been staggered at how brave and courageous they are at using the whole fingerboard in ways that I wouldn't have dreamed of because I was too terrified of making mistakes. And I thought I can't go back to any other way of teaching. I really can't. You know, so there you are.
It's very good. It's very good. Thank you for taking the time to
You're
talk to me.
welcome.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks,
Makes me
Laura.
almost want to have more children so I can teach them that way. But not quite.
Well, I taught, you know, you're never too old. Try it with the adults. Also.
Yes.
It was a great pleasure. Another story. A couple of years ago, I had a 15-year-old who had played the flute as a child, but could never grasp read music. I had this block, I can't read music. Very bright girl. So I said, let's start with Stringbabies. And it was great fun. We treated the toys as a big hoot, you know. You do. It's not too serious when you're 15. Well, the toys do have a different function. They're not just a way into symbols. Because they're
they're
tactile.
motions, yes.
Motions,
Shifting
you know,
and
that's right.
not squeezing and all
Yeah.
sorts.
All sorts of things. And she ended up, by going that, starting that level below, becoming an incredibly good sight reader. And she was so pleased with herself when she was able to compose her own song. And the other thing I've noticed, the intricacy of the rhythms they come up with and the pictures is just so much more than you would expect.
Well, you've taken away the stigma of the hierarchy, saying a triplet's hard, or you know, this one, watch out for that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And
It's crippling. It's crippling.
But your way's not crippling. It's free.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's lovely.
thank you.
It's very lovely. So I
Thank
look forward
you.
to the next installment.
Thanks, Kate.